Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Steve Caesar, Head Harvester for Human Resources. We're coming to you today from the Elevate Conference in Dallas this year. And we just came out of a Breakfast with Champions session, and with me today is Bob Brauns from LMC Landscaping in Maryland. We just were talking about some of the HR issues that Bob is experiencing in his company. So Bob, coming out of this Breakfast with Champions sessions, what are some of the key HR issues that we were talking about?
Some of my biggest obstacles in HR would be policies and procedures, working on my handbooks, and tracking and maintaining, making sure that we're doing PTO and everything correctly.
It's a common issue we have across the whole nation, everybody, and I mean, Bob, obviously a good business owner, is trying to centralize a bunch of that information from very disparate sources into one common location to make his company a little bit more formal and efficient. So we're going to hopefully work on revising his handbook one day in the future to make things a little bit more streamlined. If you haven't done your handbook lately, you probably should really think about it because it's coming up on year end. Employee handbooks are very, very important. Let's talk about another issue. Any employee terminations lately? Any dismissals, anything like that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I had one recent employee that we actually released from employment. He was tardy often. We had a cash flow issue, so it was time to lighten up the load. So he was unfortunately the candidate for that. But we released him. We just did a nice personal talk to him and gave him a 2-week severance pay for his time, and just, it was pretty amicable.
So the employee used to be an employee, now we've promoted him to customer, okay? He's being very generous by saying we dismissed him. But that's an important part of our HR world, is to make sure that the employee termination process, the dismissal process, is done very efficiently and legally, because you don't want to have a wrongful termination claim. And Bob was telling me how thorough they are in terms of making sure all the procedures are in place to make sure that process is done in a very professional fashion. Another thing that we talked about very briefly, if you haven't already done so, and Bob and I just were talking about it, was to make sure you guys have employment practices, liability insurance. It's very, very important in today's very litigious world, because if or when Bob ever gets sued for harassment, discrimination, wrongful termination, retaliation, anything like that, without that insurance, Bob or the owner, Bob is the owner in this case, but you were the owner, would have to pay out of pocket. If you have that insurance, the insurance company would pay some of that expense, and you probably would not be as damaged as you possibly could be. So just keep that stuff in mind about having EPLI to cover policies and procedures as well as termination procedures that make your company a little bit more safe going into the future. Other comments or questions, Bob? Anything about HR you want to talk about to everybody?
No, sir. I think you pretty much summed it up for me.
Thank you, Bob.
Definitely enjoyed the insight on the insurance.
Very good. If you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to call me. But again, I'm Steve Caesar with Bob Rost from LMC Landscaping in Maryland. If you guys have any questions, feel free to give me a call. Otherwise, we'll see you at the Harvest homepage. We're here to harvest your potential. Thanks, everybody.